I spent the last 28 days watching my friends and family's favorite movies and reviewing them on TikTok. Some of the movies were great, like Parasite, while some of the movies were hot trash, like Coraline. Now it is time for me to take all of those movies and put them into a tier list with their ratings in mind. This is my movie review series, tier list. So here it is. Here's the tier list. There's all 28 movies and there's only one rule. We can only put 5 movies in the GOAT portion of the tier list. No more than that, although there are a lot of really, really good movies on the list. We can only put 5 in GOAT. And the other categories are must watch, mid, wouldn't watch again, and a big L. So let's begin with The Big Lebowski. On my list, or on my series, The Big Lebowski got an 8 out of 10. And I think, although I gave it an 8 out of 10, I don't think it's a must-watch. I don't think it has a very niche audience it will hit with, and I was one of them. I don't believe it's a must-watch. So I'm going to put The Big Lebowski in mid. So the next up we have A Bronx Tale, which got a 9 out of 10 in my movie review series. It was actually a fantastic movie, probably the best mafia movie I have watched. And I'm actually going to put it in must watch. Robert De Niro's in it, and I believe he directs it. It was a fantastic movie. I highly recommend watching it if you haven't seen it before. Next up, we have Captain America and the Winter Soldier. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10, and for a long time, Captain America and the Winter Soldier was like a top tier Marvel movie that like you had to see. But with the new Spider-Man and Thor Ragnarok and a couple others, I don't think it still holds that status. I'm actually going to put it in mid, mostly because I think it's only a must-see if you've seen the rest of the movies, and if you've seen the rest of the movies, you've probably already seen Captain America and the Winter Soldier, so it's going to take a spot in mid. So this next one is going to be our first L. I mentioned it in the intro. Coraline just wasn't it. I gave it a 5 out of 10. Didn't hit. I didn't like it the first time I saw it, like forever ago. And I knew it wasn't going to change. It's just, like, the artwork is fantastic. They did a fantastic job on it. Do not get me wrong. It's just not for me. It didn't hit, and it got a 5 out of 10, and that gives it an L. I might get a lot of hate for this, but this next movie in Forrest Gump is probably one of the most overrated movies I've watched. People hyped it up for so long. It's all I could hear. There's so many references about it. And I think this is the most mid movie out there, which gives away where I'm putting it, but Forrest Gump is going right in mid. I enjoyed it, but I definitely didn't think it was as good as everyone said it was. I probably won't watch it again for anything other than like a movie review series or something. But yeah, I definitely don't think it's as good as everyone says it is. Next up is Geralds Game, and it surprised me. Zach came in hot with 2 really random out there movies in Gerald's Game and Super Dark Times, which we'll get to. I actually enjoyed this a lot more than I expected it to. I definitely didn't see the movie going the way it did, and I didn't know it was a Stephen King novel before it was a movie, so I would have had a different perspective going into it. But I definitely am gonna put it in mid because I don't think it's must watch. I'm realizing this list is gonna have a lot of mid, but there's also a lot of good on the list, so we'll get there. But yeah, Gerald's Game is gonna go in mid. This next movie really was a good time. Good Time is a very anxiety-inducing movie. It kind of reminds me a lot of Uncut Gems, which before I had seen the movie is what people had referenced it as, like what the movie was like to me. Has Robert Pattinson. It really shows he can act outside of the Twilight sphere. I hadn't really seen him in much other than Harry Potter and Twilight, but he did a fantastic job in this movie. I think it's must watch if you liked Uncut Gems, but I don't think it's enough for me to put it in the must watch category of this list. I do recommend watching it, but I don't think it's a must-watch. Next up, we have one of my favorite musicals of all time in Hamilton. Hamilton got a 9 out of 10 on my tier list. I could have told you that going into the tier list. I've seen the play on Disney Plus probably 5 times since it's come out. Listened to the soundtrack hundreds of times. This one's really tough because I really want to put Hamilton in GOAT, but there's other movies I think need to go there ahead of it. So I'm actually going to put Hamilton in must watch, although I'm going to put it ahead of A Bronx Tale. Lin-Manuel Miranda is a genius, and I highly recommend watching Hamilton if you haven't seen it. Next up, we have our first GOAT movie in Interstellar. I had not seen Interstellar, and I had not had it spoiled for me up until I watched these movies about a month ago when I started my series. Interstellar was just fantastic. It's really tough for me to put a space movie over The Martian because that was my favorite space movie for a very long time. Not counting Star Wars and stuff like that, but The Martian was just fantastic, and I think Interstellar beat it. The movie was just insane. The foreshadowing, everything was just fantastic. I absolutely loved this movie from start to finish. And it was actually the first movie I watched for my tier list. It started the list with a bang, and it's the first movie going into the GOAT section. Next up, we have Looney Tunes back in action. It's actually one of the only live-action Looney Tunes movies I've seen. I don't know if there are many other than the 2 Space Jams. But it was good. It was a lot better than I expected. Honestly, it's definitely better than the newer Space Jam, for sure. I'm going to put it in mid. It brought exactly what I expected out of a Looney Tunes movie. And yeah, I enjoyed it, but I don't think it's a must-watch. Next up, we have our first Wouldn't Watch Again. I heard a lot of hype about Luca before it came out, and that it was great and everything. And, well, I agree. Pixar always hits it out of the park with animation. I do not agree with the movie being great. I think it's a mid-movie. I gave it a 7 out of 10. Nothing really happened for me. It wasn't something I thoroughly enjoyed, and I most likely will never watch it again. So it's going to go in Wouldn't Watch Again. Next up is Matilda, and I have really mixed feelings about where to put Matilda. I watched Matilda a lot growing up. It was one of those movies we watched in school when it was a rainy day or a movie day. So I saw it a lot growing up, and I don't know if it's just the nostalgia in me wanting to not put it in L, but I gave it a 6 out of 10, and I think I have to put it in L as well. It's not a great movie. It's not a bad movie. I definitely am probably never going to watch it again in my life unless I have children down the line and they want to watch it, but I don't. If of all the movies they could watch, I doubt they're picking Matilda. So I'm going to put Matilda in L. Danny DeVito is in it. Only redeeming factor is Danny DeVito. No, it just doesn't hit. It doesn't age well in my opinion either. It was okay, and for that reason I'm going to put it in now. Next up we have Encanto, however you want to pronounce it. I got some flack for how I pronounce it. I pronounce it Encanto, and I was told I was probably wrong, but this movie was fantastic. It was a lot better than I expected. It is going right into must-watch. Funny enough, right in there with Hamilton. Both music written by the same person in Lin-Manuel Miranda, and they're both fantastic. It was way better than I expected. I had heard all the songs on TikTok. I'd seen some trailers, and I didn't really think that it was going to be for me or that I would enjoy it. And I was very wrong. It was fantastic. If you haven't seen it, it is 100% a must-watch. It is one of the feel-good Pixar movies, and I highly recommend it. Next up, we have Casino, and this movie was great. Funny enough, I worked in a casino for almost 3 years, and I had never seen this movie. Everyone had always talked about it. They always made fun of me for being the young guy who had never seen this movie. But this is actually going to go right up there in must-watch as well. It's another mafia movie, and like I said with The Bronx Tale was one of the best mafia movies I'd seen ever. And then I had watched Casino a couple movies later, and they're both fantastic. It made me feel real nostalgic for work and missing my job, but I definitely think Casino is a must-watch. It also has Robert De Niro in it, and I highly recommend watching it if you haven't seen it before. Okay, so hear me out. I very heavily considered making this next movie its own column, its own row, and its own ranking, because Parasite is by far the best movie I've ever watched, and there is not enough good things I can say about this movie. It was fantastic. I'm not really a sub person. I don't usually watch subtitled movies. I will watch movies with subtitles on, but I can still understand it because it's in English. With Parasite, you have to read the subtitles because it is in Korean, and I know people don't want to make that move, and they like what they're used to. Watch Parasite. Parasite might be the best movie ever. Like I said, there's not enough good things I can say about this. You never know what's happening in this movie. Like, it always keeps you on your toes. It is just fantastic. Please, if you watch any movie off this list, watch Parasite. Parasite was the only movie in my review series that got a perfect 10 out of 10. That's how good it was. I cannot understate that enough. Please watch it. Next up, we have another musical, and it's gonna join the L group. I gave it a 6.5 out of 10. Phantom of the Opera was just not it for me. Their talents in singing, fantastic. Just not for me, and I could not care less about the story. And that's why it's gonna join Coraline and Matilda in the L. So there are 2 anime style movies on here. There are multiple animated movies, but anime style movies on this list. And the first one is Princess Mononoke, and without a doubt, this movie is a must-watch. It heavily reflects on the war we're having with the environment now as a species, and it's about loyalty, it's about trust, it's about love, it's about friendship. And this movie is just fantastic. Zach hit it out of the park with this recommendation. I highly recommend watching it. Like I said before, if you don't like subbed anime, this is dubbed, and the dub is done by Disney, and Disney does a fantastic job of that. I highly recommend watching this if you haven't seen Princess Mononoke. It's about time that Leonardo DiCaprio makes an appearance on this list, and it starts off with The Revenant. And the fact that Leo won his first Oscar for this movie blows my mind. I gave it a 7 out of 10. It's gonna go in my wouldn't watch again. The movie was super slow, and I get that's the point, and it's an old-timey movie and everything, but it's just so boring. Environment and the shots of the movie are absolutely breathtaking, and I enjoyed the story, but I will never watch this movie again. That's why it's gonna join Luca in wouldn't watch again, but it's good. It's just not rewatchable. Adrian. Next up, we got Rocky. That was lame, but I'm gonna keep it in anyways. Rocky does not age well, let me tell you that. It's very weird, but it's good. It's not a must-watch, in my opinion. I don't know if I personally would put it in top 10 sports movies of all time. I know other people would. It's what you expect from a boxing movie. It's definitely not great, but it's definitely not bad. And the end fight is just great, in my opinion. If you haven't seen Rocky by now, it's probably by choice. And I don't think it is a must-watch, so I'm going to leave it in mid. We got back-to-back sports movies, and this time we have The Sandlot. And my brother was so mad with my ranking for this movie. I gave The Sandlot a 7 out of 10, and he was not impressed. And I'm probably going to put The Sandlot and wouldn't watch again. I had seen it a couple times growing up, and I watched it for this tier list, and I was excited to watch it. And then as I watched it, I'm like, I really couldn't care less for this movie. It wasn't bad. It definitely doesn't deserve a spot in L, but I'm probably never going to watch this movie again in my life. It's a kids baseball movie that, in my opinion, didn't age well. So that's why it goes into wouldn't watch. So I really struggled where to put this next movie, and I think Shawshank Redemption is going to go in must watch. I know that on IMDb, Shawshank Redemption is the #1 movie of all time. I know that on Rotten Tomatoes, it is so high up on their list. It might even be #1. I don't think it's that good. I give Shawshank a 9 out of 10. I think it's a great movie. I think the second you watch it the first time, it loses its rewatchability because the twist is gone. And I still think it's a great movie. I've now watched it twice in the last year. Once because I hadn't seen it before, and the second time for this tier list. And I will be watching it a third time for my next movie series. But I think it's a must watch, but I don't know how rewatchable it is. I enjoyed it just as much the second time, but I don't think that many people would, or many people would even go back and watch it a second time. The twist at the end is what the movie kind of leads up to. I know there's a great story until the end, but I definitely think that some people are gonna skip the rewatch on this one. I enjoyed it though, so I'm gonna put it in must watch. So I don't know how many people have been paying attention to the bottom and what's left as I've been going through this list, but if you know me, you knew this next movie was 100% going in the GOAT tier. And now, I don't agree that it's the best one in the franchise. Shrek 2 is better than Shrek 1 in my opinion. Shrek is 100% going in the GOAT tier. Shrek is absolutely fantastic. This movie just ages so well. There's jokes for all ages in this movie. One of my favorite being about Snow White, and it is, she may live with 7 men, but she isn't easy. And it killed me when I watched it this time. I have never picked up on that joke before. And I was watching it with my 8-year-old niece, and she was so confused on why I was laughing. There are so many hidden jokes in this movie. It is fantastic. If you haven't seen Shrek by now, you're living under a rock. Go watch Shrek immediately. This movie 100% deserves a spot in my GOAT tier. And we have back-to-back GOAT tier movies with Spirited Away. Spirited Away is one of the best movies I've ever watched. It's right up there with Parasite. I gave it a 9.5 out of 10 in my review series on TikTok, and for good reason. This movie is absolutely fantastic. Like I said before, there's 2 anime movies on this list, and Spirited Away is the second one, and it just blew me away. This movie was fantastic. It's about love and friendship, and it's not in the same way Princess Mononoke is about love and friendship. It's just, they both do it so well, but Spirited Away just does it that much better. If you haven't watched this, please go watch it. Again, Disney does the dub. The main character is voiced by Lilo from Lilo and Stitch. And this movie is just beyond fantastic. Please give it a watch if you haven't seen it. It is on Netflix, so it's very easy to find. And yeah, Spirited Away 100% makes my GOAT tier. So when I say Zach came at me with some weird movies, Zach really came at me with some weird movies. Super Dark Time is going in my mid tier. This movie was probably one of the weirdest movies I've ever watched. I constantly felt, I don't know how to describe how I felt. It was good. It wasn't great. And it was awkward at times, in my opinion. I enjoyed it. I think the story's really messed up, but I think you should. I don't think it's a must watch, but I recommend watching it. It's weird. It's a really weird movie, and we have the final GOAT tier movie here in Toy Story. Much like Shrek, I am a fan of Toy Story 2 more so than Toy Story 1, but that doesn't take away the greatness of the first Toy Story. Toy Story is probably the best Disney Pixar movie ever released. The series, and I'm referring to the whole franchise. Toy Story is just fantastic, even at 24. I love this series. This series is just beyond fantastic. All 4 of them hit. But Toy Story 1 is 100% deserving of a spot in my GOAT tier. I loved it this time around. I think the movie's fantastic. I think that these movies will continue through generations. I think parents my age will start showing their kids this, and they will live on. And just, there's not enough good things to say about Toy Story. It's just a fantastic movie, a fantastic franchise, and again, much like Shrek, if you haven't seen Toy Story, you're probably living under a rock. Go out there and watch all 4 of them. They're all fantastic. Next up, we have The Wizard of Oz, and I'm going to put it in must watch because it's one of those classics that everyone should watch at least once in their life. I give it an 8 out of 10 this playthrough, or this watch through, and it didn't hit with me the way it used to. It's still a great movie, and I still think everyone must watch it. I just don't think it holds its value, in my opinion. I don't know if that's because I'm not the target audience or the target age, or I don't really have the nostalgia with it. I definitely don't think it's a top tier movie, but like I said, I think it's one of those classics that everyone has to watch at least once in their life. And last but not least, we end with another Leo movie with The Wolf of Wall Street. This movie's fantastic. I mean, the story behind Jordan Belfort is absolutely insane. Not the best of human beings, but it made for a hell of an entertaining movie. I'm going to put it in mid. I don't think it's a must-watch, but I personally think it's one of Leo's top-tier movies. How this didn't win an Oscar over The Revenant, I'll never know, but I definitely am going to put it in mid, because it's a great movie, but I don't think it has any qualities that make it must-watch. Also, it's like 3 hours. It took me like 4 attempts to finally get through this whole movie, and this was the first time I did get through the whole movie, and it was only because it was for the movie review series. But yeah, it's a good movie, but it's not must watch. And there you have it. There is my movie review series put into a tier list. What do you agree with? What don't you agree with? Leave a comment down below. Please like, share, and subscribe, and keep posted with my TikTok, which will be on screen here. I plan on starting a new movie review series very soon. It's going to be a bit different than this one. I already have it all set up, and I'm ready to go. And I think it's going to be one everyone will enjoy. So keep an eye out for that, and have a great day. See you guys next time.